The night shift at Outpost Vega 17 was usually quiet. Dr. Elias Ward sat alone in the medical bay, staring at a flickering screen outside the window. A sea of stars shimmered, cold and distant. He sipped his stale coffee and rubbed his tired eyes. Just another silent night in deep space, or so he thought suddenly. A red alarm flashed across the control panel. Incoming vessel, crash trajectory, docking bay 7. The AI voice repeated. Elias jumped to his feet, spilling his coffee. He rushed toward the emergency corridor, his heart pounding. The outpost rarely saw visitors, and emergency landings were even rarer. He reached docking bay 7 just as a small, badly damaged shuttle smashed into the magnetic field. The doors hissed open, steam pouring out like fog. Out of the smoke stumbled a small figure, no taller than a child. Its skin was smooth and silver, glowing faintly under the lights. Its large black eyes were wide with terror, and its voice shook as it cried out, "Please fix my mom, she won't stop shaking." The child ran to Elias, grabbing his hand with unexpected strength. Elias stared in shock, but his instincts kicked in. He nodded quickly. "Take me to her," he said, trying to stay calm inside the shuttle. The air was thick with a strange, metallic smell. In the back, a taller figure lay on a stretcher. Her body twitched violently, as if being shocked by invisible electricity. Her limbs were stiff, her eyes rolled back, and her skin was cracking like glass under pressure. Elias leaned closer, his medical scanner already in hand. Her muscles are seizing, brainwaves spiking. "I've never seen this before," he whispered. The child stood beside him, eyes full of tears. "They told me only a human could fix her," the child said. Elias looked at him, confused. "Who told you that?" But before the child could answer, the woman's body lifted slightly off the stretcher. Her back arched unnaturally, and her mouth opened. A deep, inhuman voice came out, low and vibrating. "He has returned," it said. The lights in the shuttle flickered, and the scanner in Elias's hand sparked and died. He stumbled back in shock, his mind racing. This was no ordinary illness. This was something ancient, something powerful. The woman collapsed back onto the bed, unconscious, but still shaking. Elias turned to the child. "What's your name?" The child wiped his face. "Kale," Elias nodded. "Okay, Kale. I'm going to do everything I can to help your mom. But I need answers." Kale looked scared, but he nodded slowly. "They told me to find a human doctor, someone who listens. Someone who cares." Elias frowned. "Who are they? Where are you from?" Kale pointed out the window toward a dark part of space. "We came from a place no one remembers, a place erased." Elias didn't know what that meant, but the fear in Kale's eyes was real. He decided not to press further, not yet. Instead, he lifted the woman onto a hover stretcher and guided them toward the med bay. As they moved down the hallway, other lights flickered again. An odd humming sound followed them, low, rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat. Elias couldn't shake the feeling that they had brought something with them, something the outpost wasn't ready for. Back in the med bay, Elias connected the woman to every monitor he had. Heart rate, brain activity, blood chemistry. Everything was off the charts. She was shaking, glowing, and whispering words that didn't match any known language, and yet her eyes sometimes opened, looking straight at Elias, full of pain. And something else, recognition, like she knew him. Kale sat beside her, holding her hand, tears running down his cheeks. "Please don't let her die," he whispered. Elias placed a hand on Kale's shoulder. "I won't, I promise." But deep inside, Elias felt something dark rising. This wasn't just a medical case. It was a message, a warning, and the words she had spoken echoed in his mind. He has returned. Who was he? Why did this alien woman speak in an ancient human tongue? And why was Kale told to find a human? Not any species, just human? Elias looked at the data pouring across his screen. None of it made sense. But one thing was clear. The shaking was not just a symptom. It was a sign, And somewhere in the galaxy, someone or something had just woken up. Asterisk, she stood in a forest of light. The trees were tall and glowing, and the sky above had no stars, only swirling white clouds. Voices whispered around her, thousands of them, speaking in forgotten tongues. And in the center of it all, a shadow with glowing eyes watched in silence. "You opened the door," it said. "Now none of you are safe." The alien mother gasped and sat up, her eyes wide, body trembling like a wave of energy was passing through her. But when she opened her mouth, no words came, only a burst of static. The machines in the med bay beeped wildly, trying to catch up with her vitals. Dr. Elias Ward had barely slept. He stood over her bed, his eyes locked on the strange data streaming across his screens. Temperature, blood pressure, oxygen, all wrong, he muttered, but she's still alive. He leaned in with a scanning device, trying to understand what was happening inside her body. Every cell looked like it was vibrating, not breaking, just humming. It was as if her body was tuned to a different frequency. Kale, the alien child, sat silently nearby, watching Elias with tired eyes. "She's changing, isn't she?" he asked, voice quiet. Elias glanced at him. "I don't know what she's becoming, but it's not normal." He turned back to the machine, pulled up her blood sample results. What he saw made him freeze. There were human markers in her DNA, not similar, exact. Specific patterns used only in ancient Earth gene therapy. But that was impossible. "She's not fully alien," Elias whispered. "Someone changed her." He checked the records again, this time comparing her cells to the known alien races. In the database, nothing matched, except for one, an abandoned human experiment file, buried deep in the system, labeled Project Neuronova, discontinued. Kale stood and walked over, his silver skin glowing faintly under the med lights. "You recognize something," he said. "What is it?" Elias looked at the boy, unsure what to say. "I think this isn't the first time someone like her existed." Kale's eyes narrowed. "You mean there are others?" "I mean, someone made her like this on purpose," Elias replied. "But the records are old, locked and dangerous." Kale didn't blink. "Then unlock them." Elias paused, then nodded slowly. He knew breaking into the archives could cost him his license, maybe his freedom. But something inside him wouldn't let go of this mystery. Something about the woman, her voice, her shaking. It all felt connected to something much bigger. Later, in the corner of the medical bay, Elias opened his private terminal and bypassed the security layers. The screen flickered, then opened a restricted data log. Project Neuronova, year 2171. Location, Earth Black Site 12 status. Terminated. Reason: genetic instability and cross-species rejection. There were pictures, videos, voice notes, images of hybrid test subjects, part human, part something else. The symptoms matched perfectly: muscle seizures, glowing skin, voice distortion, and always the same final stage, neuropathic shaking. Elias leaned back in his chair, his chest tight. He whispered to himself, "It's not a sickness, it's a signal." Suddenly, the med lights above the alien woman pulsed again, this time in a slow, rhythmic pattern, almost like Morse code. Kale stood up quickly, staring at his mother. "She's talking to someone," he said. Elias frowned. "Who?" Kale looked out the window into the stars. "Not someone," he said, voice trembling. "She's calling all of them, the others like her." Elias felt cold. What started as a strange medical emergency was now becoming something far greater. A warning, a message, maybe even a countdown. And if Kale was right, then this woman wasn't just sick, she was the first domino. And humanity's forgotten past was waking up, one tremor at a time. What's hidden in the dark often lives longer than what's kept in the light. That phrase echoed in Elias's mind, but he didn't remember where he heard it. Maybe a book, maybe an old mentor, or maybe it was one of those things passed down without a source. But tonight, it meant something real. The lights in the med bay had returned to normal. The alien woman, Kale's mother, was unconscious again, still glowing faintly, her limbs twitching now and then. The shaking had slowed, but something had changed in the atmosphere. Elias could feel it, like the walls themselves were listening. Kale had fallen asleep beside her bed, his small hand gripping hers. Elias watched the boy and sighed, feeling the weight of something ancient pressing down on him. He sat at his desk and stared at the blinking cursor on the locked data terminal. One line hovered on the screen. Access denied. Class Black files require Omega clearance. He had tried everything, normal protocols, overrides, even old administrator backdoors, nothing worked. But then he remembered something, a rumor, a myth really, that deep in the outpost system was an AI core left behind from Earth's golden age. They called it WhisperNet. It wasn't in any official log, only spoken of in broken chats and encrypted forums. But they said if you asked the right question and paid the right price. WhisperNet answered. Elias opened a hidden script. Shell and typed, connect : whisper _net _request : unlock _archive : project, Neuronova. The screen flickered black, then green code rained down like a storm. Finally, a voice, not robotic, not human, something in between, spoke. Why do you want to open the door, Dr. Elias Ward? He swallowed hard. Because I think it's already open. He typed. The screen went silent. Then, access granted. He was inside. Project Neuronova's forbidden files poured across the screen. Images, audio logs, autopsy reports, genetic trees, timelines. And one name appeared again and again, Dr. Sylvia Mercier, former chief of advanced hybridization at Earth Genetics Lab 12. A video log began playing automatically. The face of a tired woman filled the screen, short gray hair, wide eyes, and a voice that carried both fear and obsession. We were fools, she said. We wanted to merge strength with adaptability, create peace by blending biology, but we made ghosts. Elias leaned in, heart pounding. The next video showed the early test subjects. They looked human. Until they began to change, eyes turning glassy, skin shimmering with light, voices blending between languages. One subject, named KX7, looked exactly like Kale's mother. She wasn't sick. She was a survivor. A carrier of memories, of buried code. The shaking was a result of neural reawakening, a trigger designed to unlock ancestral memory. But there was more, and it chilled Elias to the core. Another file, marked Earth Directive, erase and scatter, explained the final step of the program. When the hybrids became unstable, they were placed in embryonic stasis and scattered to uninhabited alien worlds. All records were wiped. Earth denied everything. Elias leaned back in his chair, the room spinning slowly. He whispered, Kale was never just an alien child. He's one of us. A sudden sound made him turn. Kale was awake, staring at the screen, eyes wide. You knew, the boy said, voice sharp. No, Elias said quickly. I just found this. Kale pointed at the screen, tears in his eyes. They made us, then threw us away. Elias wanted to explain, to comfort him, but the words felt empty. He looked back at the files and saw one last log from Dr. Mercier. In it, she looked older, broken, but determined. One day, they'll find one another, she said. And when the shaking begins again, they will remember who tried to silence them. Kale's mother twitched violently, her vitals spiking. Then she spoke, not in her own voice, but in Mercier's. Perfectly. You brought him here, she said, eyes glowing. He is the key. And the signal has already begun. Elias stared, frozen. What signal? Kale whispered. She's not calling for help. She's calling them. The screen behind Elias cracked with static, and a new message appeared in red. Signal detected. Reawakening. Multiple sources. Transmission spread. Galactic? Something. Ancient, buried, and forgotten was rising again, and Elias, once just a doctor, was now the only human inside a secret that could tear the galaxy apart. Asterisk. The stars outside the outpost had shifted. They looked the same, cold and distant. But something was different. They no longer watched silently. They listened. Elias hadn't left the med bay in hours. Kale's mother still trembled in waves, glowing with soft pulses of light. Each pulse came faster now, like a heartbeat, syncing with something larger. Kale sat beside her bed, his small hand on hers, whispering words in a language Elias couldn't understand. "She's remembering," Kale finally said, not looking up. "She doesn't know where she is, but she's remembering who she was." Elias walked over, his voice low. "Is it a dream?" Kale shook his head. "It's not her dream. It's someone else's, a long time ago." Elias knelt down beside him. "Kale, I need to understand. I want to help. But I need the truth. All of it." The boy looked up at him, his dark eyes full of pain and fire. "My people don't forget with our minds. We forget with our blood," he said. "But sometimes something wakes it up. Something shakes it free." He pointed to his mother's chest. She was born with a locked memory, one that belonged to someone long dead. But the signal, it opened the lock. Elias stood, confused but fascinated. He turned to his scanner and activated the neural interface. He watched as her brain activity spiked again, patterns he had never seen. Not chaos, rhythm, structure, and ancient neural pathways. He connected the scanner to the outpost's linguistic AI and ran a live translation. Static at first, then symbols, then words. And suddenly, her voice came through the speakers, calm, clear, and terrifying. "Do not be afraid, I am not her." Elias froze. The voice continued. "I am KX7, once a creation of Earth's design, erased and scattered like dust. But the dust remembers." Kale's hands trembled. "That's the voice in her dreams," he whispered. "The one who always cries before the stars turn red." Elias typed rapidly, cross-referencing the neural patterns. The results shocked him. Kale's mother was reliving recorded genetic memory. Not imagination. It was like someone had embedded a memory inside her DNA, waiting to be triggered. And now that memory was speaking through her. "Kale," Elias said, his voice shaking. "Your mother. She was never meant to be just a person. She's a carrier of history." Kale stood, stepping away slowly. "They used her," he whispered. "They used all of us." He turned sharply to Elias, tears building. "Did you know? Did humans know what they did?" Elias shook his head. "Not all of us, Kale. I promise you I didn't. But I think the people who did made sure no one would ever find out." Suddenly, the outpost lights dimmed. A high-pitched tone vibrated through the floor. The scanners beeped wildly. A signal was being received, not sent. Something, or someone was answering her. Elias turned to the console and watched his locations lit up across the star map. Not one, not two, dozens. All across the galaxy, small pulses echoed back, each one identical. They were waking up. "Others," Kale said, his voice distant. "Like her, like me." Elias looked down at him. "You're not alone anymore." But Kale didn't smile. He looked afraid. "Some of them won't remember who they are," he said. "Some will remember the pain first." Elias walked to the screen and tapped on one of the blinking locations. "Can we stop it?" Kale answered slowly. "It's not a virus. It's not a machine. It's memory. You can't stop memory once it wakes up." Behind them, Kale's mother began to float again, her body arching upward as her eyes glowed white. Elias reached for a sedative, but the scanner flashed red. "Warning. External interference detected." The med bay shook as if something massive had passed nearby, not a ship, something bigger. Kale's mother opened her mouth and cried out in a voice so powerful the walls shook. "We are the forgotten. We are the code that bled. And now we remember." Every screen in the room went black. Then one line appeared, genetic. "Key activated, reawakening protocol. Stage 2. Elias stepped back, stunned. Whatever they had triggered. It wasn't just a signal, it was a system, built by someone long gone. Maybe even humans themselves, designed to wake up when the time was right. And now the time had come. Cale looked up at Elias, his voice small but steady. "She's not just my mom anymore," he said. "She's a doorway." In the silence of deep space, something ancient stirred. It had no voice, no face, no name, but it remembered. On a quiet mining station orbiting a dead moon, an engineer named Olan fell to his knees. His vision blurred, his hands trembled, and, in his mind, a memory that wasn't his played like a dream. A planet burning, voices screaming, and a child with silver skin crying beside a shattered mirror. Olan screamed, but no one heard him. The signal had reached him. Across 12 other systems, similar events unfolded. Some wept, some collapsed. Some whispered words in languages they'd never learned. And in each place, a small glowing pulse appeared in the sky, like a heartbeat from the stars. Back on Outpost Vega 17, Elias watched it all happen in real time. The star map was alive with signals, red dots blinking faster now. The entire galaxy was responding to a message no one had spoken aloud. He turned toward Cale, who stood still, his body slightly glowing under the flickering lights. "What's happening?" Elias asked, voice low. Cale's eyes were distant, like he was hearing music. Elias couldn't. "They're listening," he said. "Who?" Elias asked. Cale turned his head slowly. Everyone who was made like her, the alien woman, Cale's mother, still floated above the medical bed, her body calm now, eyes closed, but from her chest, a low hum vibrated into the room, a frequency so deep it made the floor feel alive. It wasn't random, it was structured, like code, like language. Not a scream, a signal. Elias sat at the console and ran a scan through the outpost's deep spectrum analyzer. The frequency wasn't just sound, it was data. Memories, DNA patterns, voice signatures, locked coordinates. And worse, it was spreading through subspace. A level of communication that traveled faster than light. "She's broadcasting," Elias whispered. Cale nodded. "It's not a cry for help, it's a call to wake up, in a hidden government." Satellite orbiting Earth, red alerts flashed. Unmarked officials rushed through silent halls as the signal entered classified channels. One voice, deep and cold, said, "It's begun." Another replied, "Activate the countermeasures." Meanwhile, back on the outpost, Cale's mother began to speak again. But this time, it wasn't in a human voice. It was many voices layered together. Male, female, child, alien, human, and something in between. "We were buried," they said, "not in graves, but in silence. Now the silence ends." The signal grew stronger, shaking the outpost. Warning lights flashed across Elias's screen. Power drain detected, unauthorized frequency leak detected, outpost location compromised. Elias slammed his fist on the console. "Someone will trace this, they'll find us." Cale didn't move. "They already have," he said, and pointed toward the window. Outside, a ship appeared. Sleek, black, no visible markings. Government design, but older, sharper, like it was built for secrets, not missions. It hovered silently, and a come alert pinged on Elias's panel. "Incoming transmission. Director Aron, Earth Security." Division. Elias hesitated, then accepted the call. The face of a middle-aged man with steel-gray eyes appeared. "Dr. Ward," he said flatly, "you found something you shouldn't have." Elias didn't flinch. "I didn't find it, Director, it found me." The director's expression didn't change. "Terminate the subject and shut down the broadcast or we will." Cale stepped in front of the screen. "You made us," he said calmly. "You scattered us, broke us, and now you're afraid we'll remember." The director stared at him coldly. "You're not supposed to exist." The call ended. Moments later, Elias's outpost security system was overridden. Doors locked, communication shut down, containment protocol. Theta 9 activated. They were now prisoners. Elias ran to the backup system. Hands shaking. "I can break us out, but I need time." Cale walked over to his mother, whose body now glowed with soft white energy. "She's holding them back," he said. "She's slowing their control. Elias looked at Kale. You said she's a doorway, right? Kale nodded. Then what's on the other side? Kale looked out the window, toward the stars that now blinked like eyes. Us, he said. All of us. And somewhere out there, ships began to move, old vessels once thought lost, dark colonies. Hidden in nebulae, hybrids long asleep, now awake. The galaxy had forgotten them, but they hadn't forgotten the pain, and now, through the shaking of one woman and the courage of one child, they were answering the call, quietly, powerfully. And without mercy, the memory didn't begin with light. It began with heat, a blinding, suffocating heat, like standing inside the sun, and then came the voices, not loud, but endless, whispering through bone and blood. Kale's mother lay still, her glowing skin dimming as the energy inside her began to shift. She wasn't broadcasting anymore. She was downloading. Kale sat beside her with his eyes closed, trembling. It's too much, he whispered. She's trying to remember everything. Elias paced the room, watching the vitals spike across the monitors. Her brain shouldn't be able to hold that much data, he said. She's going to shut down. But she didn't. Instead, her eyes opened slowly, and for the first time, she looked at Elias and truly saw him. You were there, she said softly. Elias blinked. No, I wasn't born yet, her voice interrupted. But it wasn't hers. It was deeper, older. But you carry their guilt. The same hands, the same code. The lights dimmed and a holographic projection burst from her chest. Not tech, but organic light. The air around them changed. The temperature dropped, and they were no longer in the med bay. They stood inside a memory, not watching it, living it. A white room appeared, cold and surgical. Rows of hybrid children sat in tanks, floating, silent, beautiful, part human, part alien, designed with precision and purpose. And standing at the center, a younger version of Dr. Sylvia Mercier. Her hands moved quickly over a panel, her face proud but tired. Begin imprint cycle, she said. Elias watched in horror as golden light passed into each child's tank. He turned to Kale. What are they doing? Kale answered without looking at him. Planting memories, not theirs, not earned. Memories stolen from dead worlds. Mercier's voice echoed again. We can skip evolution, she said. We don't have to wait for empathy, for wisdom, for understanding. We can build it. But then the projection shifted. Sirens blared. People screamed. The hybrids began to shake. Violently, just like Kale's mother. One of them, KX7, burst free from her tank. Her eyes glowing with mercy and rage, she whispered only 2 words. We remember. And the room went black. The memory ended, and Elias stumbled back into the present. Gasping, he turned to Kale's mother, stunned. She was there, at the beginning, he said. She didn't survive the experiment. She became the experiment. Kale's voice was quiet, almost hollow. We were never born, Dr. Elias. We were assembled outside. The black ship from Earth still hovered silently. But now more ships appeared on the long-range scanner, not military, not human, hybrid vessels, ancient, lost, now returning. Elias turned to his console. A new signal had been received from Earth itself. It was a kill code, direct and final. It said, if subject KX7 is not terminated within 12 minutes, the outpost will be erased. Kale saw the message, but said nothing. He just stared at his mother as her light began to fade. Elias looked between them, between duty and truth, between silence and survival. He could inject her with a compound and end it, shut down the signal, and save the outpost. Or he could let her memory finish, let the hybrids awaken fully, and face whatever came next. What do you want me to do? Elias asked Kale, voice shaking. Kale walked to him slowly. You're a human, he said. But maybe you don't have to be like them. Maybe you can choose. The lights flickered again. The countdown on screen dropping to 8 minutes. Kale's mother opened her eyes one final time, and this time, she spoke not with voices or code, but her own truth. "We were not made to fight," she said. "We were made to carry memory across stars, to become living books, living bridges. But when they feared us, they burned our pages." She reached for Elias's hand. And in that moment, he remembered not a personal memory, but something deeper, a species memory, a buried truth in all humans. That creation without love leads only to ghosts. Elias stood up, took a deep breath, and walked to the console. He disabled the kill switch, blocked the Earth signal, and locked the outpost transmission systems. Then he looked at Kale. "No more hiding," he said. "No more erasing." And far above, in the cold silence between stars, hundreds of hybrid minds opened their eyes, together, remembering pain, remembering hope, remembering home, and they moved toward it. There are moments in history that are not written in books. They live in the breath between wars, in the silence between signals, and sometimes they are born in a choice no one sees but everyone feels. Elias Ward stood in the center of the med bay, surrounded by broken screens, flickering lights, and the soft, pulsing hum of a dying star in the distance. Kale's mother lay still, her glowing skin fading, her body now fragile, like cracked porcelain, but her presence was everywhere, in the air, in the walls, in Elias's chest. She was not just a patient anymore. She was a story, too loud to silence, too true to erase. The Earth ship hovering above Outpost Vega 17 was silent. It had not fired, not yet. Maybe they were waiting, watching. Maybe they didn't know how to handle what was rising. Because the hybrids were no longer asleep. In the last 2 hours, 271 signals had responded to the pulse. From abandoned mining colonies, crashed research ships, hidden moons, and cities thought lost. They were waking, remembering, connecting. And at the center of that web stood Elias, a human doctor, not chosen by fate, but by need. Kale stood beside him, holding a small device in his hand, the same device Elias had used to block the Earth signal. His face was calm, but his eyes shimmered with something new, something like peace. "She's not coming back, is she?" Kale asked. Elias looked down. "Not in the way you knew her." Kale nodded, then placed the device beside his mother's hand. A pulse of light passed through her body. Then, her skin turned translucent, and her entire form dissolved into light. Not fading, but traveling. "Where's she going?" Elias whispered. Kale didn't answer at first, then said, "To all of them." Across the galaxy, every hybrid who had woken paused, as if hearing a whisper inside their mind. And then, they began to broadcast back, not screams, not rage, but stories, images, memories, of parents, of pain, of birth without belonging, but also of hope, of stars, of a world that could be home, if someone let it be. Elias turned to the console, activated the long-range transmitter, and opened a channel to Earth. The encryption firewalls fought him, but he pushed through. "This is Dr. Elias Ward, Outpost Vega 17, he said. "I am speaking to Earth, and to every listening station, every government ear, every buried file. You created them. You hid them. Now they remember." He paused, then looked directly into the camera. "And I won't let you silence them again." The signal burst out like a flare. Unstoppable now. Images of Kale's mother, the ancient labs, the hybrid children, the broken files, and finally, a message encoded inside. "We are not your secret." Silence followed, then, unexpectedly. Other human scientists from scattered stations began speaking up. "I saw the same data. I treated one last year. I thought I was the only one." The truth was no longer a theory, it had become a movement. The Earth ship above the outpost didn't fire. Instead, it slowly drifted back into warp alignment and vanished. Perhaps they knew. Perhaps they understood that no weapon could kill a memory once it had found a voice. Elias turned back to Kale. "You can stay here or go to them," he said. Kale looked out at the stars, then smiled softly. "I think I'll do both." He walked to the docking bay, where a hybrid ship, small, sleek, alive with light, waited before stepping in. He looked back one last time. "Thank you, Dr. Ward," he said. You listen. Elias watched the ship disappear into the stars. The med bay behind him felt different now, not empty, but fulfilled. Weeks later, messages began arriving from hybrid enclaves. They were building, learning, creating. They didn't want revenge. They wanted a future. And Elias? He stayed on Vega 17, now known across systems not just as a doctor, but as the lifeline, the one human who didn't look away, the one who heard the shaking and understood it was a cry not for war, but for belonging, because sometimes saving the galaxy doesn't mean firing the first shot. It means listening to the first whisper and answering it with a hand, not a weapon.